My 23 female boyfriend, 22 male, let his friend, 21 female, sleep in bed with us. My boyfriend and I are in love with each other, and he claims this was a huge mistake and promised me this would never happen again. But it's still eating away at me, and I'm not sure what to do about the situation. He has a friend, Lily, that has an unhealthy obsession with him. For some context, she crushed on him at a job they both worked at, and when he left for a different job, she followed him there and made it clear she wanted something more with him. My boyfriend and I did take a break last year for some months because we jumped into a relationship we weren't ready for. We are back together and exclusive. During our break, I know they did some things together, but he claims they never had full-blown intercourse. He says he regrets what he did with her, but does not have any feelings for her and truly wants to be with me. She still hates that we're dating. I've tried being nice and friendly to her, but she's intimidated by me and still does not like me. The last time the three of us were together, she wasn't able to drive home, so I offered to buy her an Uber, which she refused. After taking some time to herself, she came back in the room where my boyfriend and I were laying in bed, and she got into bed with us and ended up sleeping there. Not only that, but when I went to class the next day and came back, they were taking a nap in bed together. I was pissed. I know she slept in bed with him on our break, so I made it a clear boundary I did not want that to happen, no matter how much he claims it's just friendly. If she gets too messed up to go home, I said one of them needs to sleep on the couch, and the other can sleep on the bed. After she left, I confronted him and asked why in the hell he let that happen. He said he just gave up on trying with her, and I said I don't care. He knows the boundary and that it can never happen again. I do believe he's telling the truth and that he really regrets that happened, but I need to hear some other advice. What should I ask him when I bring this up again? Am I wrong for snapping at my aunt who said I wasn't a real doctor? I, 35 female, am a plastic surgeon. I went through years of medical school and residency, but it was worth it. I originally started med school with the hopes of going into psychiatry, but surgery really interested me. The problem started years ago when I first told my family that I was going into plastic surgery because it was what interested me the most. My parents, siblings, and brother-in-law were all supportive, and whenever I felt like giving up, they were always there to push me. My aunts always made snide comments about him, as well as my cousins, uncles, and grandparents on both sides. They were all happy when they knew I was in med school, but completely flipped when they found out I was pursuing plastic surgery. It annoyed me at first, but I learned to just move on from it. But recently, my cousin, 40 female on my dad's side, who's the daughter of the aunt who keeps making comments about my job, had done a PLC on nursing and childcare, which didn't bother me and I couldn't care less what she does. But my aunt thought I should know everything that's happening with her daughter. Every time I see her, she goes on about how smart her daughter is and how amazing she is for doing a PLC in nursing and childcare. But the last time I seen her, she said something that really annoyed me. Me and my sister were over at her house because she had some hand-me-downs to give my nephew. We were all eating when she said, "It's great that she's going into medical school." She's not. She doesn't even have the brains for medical school. Maybe we can finally have a real doctor in the family. I sat there in silence for a second thinking, what the is she talking about? And then looked at my sister, who looked equally as pissed off as me. I snapped back and said, her changing kids' soiled pants doesn't make her a doctor, and her knowing how to clean a cut doesn't either. She's not in medical school. She's too dumb for that. She wouldn't even last a week before dropping out. My aunt looked really pissed off and yelled at me for being rude, and then she told me that I wasn't much of a doctor either. I yelled back at her that I went through years of medical school and residency, and that I'm now a licensed doctor and surgeon, and that she doesn't know what she's talking about. My aunt started crying and left the room, so me and my sister just left. A few hours later, I got a text from my cousin calling me a bitch for what I said and attacking her mom. I got more texts from other family members, and it somehow traveled to my mom's side of the family as well. Majority of them are telling me to apologize for yelling at my aunt, but my immediate family, my mom, dad, brother, sister, and in-laws, are all telling me not to. Now I'm being shunned by both sides of the family, and they're all refusing to talk to me and won't even let me tell my side of the story. So, was I the asshole? Am I wrong for threatening to cut my son off financially over a baby name? I had my son fairly young, and I recently had a change of life baby. When I was 4 months pregnant, my son, who was in college at the time, told me that he had gotten his girlfriend pregnant. I wasn't very happy, but I've been supportive and I've given them a lot of financial assistance. I had my daughter 2 months ago and named her Clara. Clara? Clara? C-L-A-R-A, Clara? Clara. My son's girlfriend went ballistic. She said they were going to name their daughter Clara and that I should have consulted with them. I got pregnant first, but whatever. I told her she needs to grow up and that she doesn't own the name. My son asked me if I would consider changing Clara's name. I want to say Clara. Clara doesn't sound right. I said no, and he stormed out of the house. Well, they told me the other day that they are going to name their daughter Paxton. I guess I made a face, and she started yelling at me that this is my fault because I sold the only name she likes. I even asked her if she likes the name Paxton, and she said she is going to like it when I have to tell my friends I have a granddaughter named Paxton. Paxtyn. Paxton? Patient? Am I saying this shit right? I don't know. So she pretty much said she hates me more than she loves her daughter. My son said I have 2 months to fix this, to change Clara's name. And I told them that they are both idiots and I feel bad for their future child. I also said if they name their daughter Paxton just to be spiteful, I will not give them any further assistance. My son called me up and said I was being controlling, but when I asked him if he actually likes the name, he hung up on me. Just to make things clear, they'd never once mentioned the name Clara to me.
The asshole for stealing money from my broke-ass boyfriend. Disclaimer's not my Storytime, listed on me on Instagram. My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. When we first met, he got fired from his job, so I decided to start paying for a few things. For example, every time we go to dinner, or sometimes when we go on dates. But it's gotten to the point where I'm literally paying for everything. And now, he doesn't even say thank you for it. He just expects it. Every time I tell him to look for a new job, he starts making up excuses. It's like he got comfortable having me pay for everything. One day I went to his wallet and I took out a 20. And then I did it the following week. I used that money to pay for his stuff. Part 2 is up. Am I the asshole for stealing money from my broke-ass boyfriend? Disclaimer's not my Storytime, listed on me on Instagram. By the first month, I had stolen $100 from his wallet and he didn't even notice. But because I was paying for everything in the relationship, I was using that money to pay for his half of everything. He just didn't know it. My job was hiring, and when I told him to apply, he said no. He said he wasn't in a rush to get a new job. Meanwhile, I'm paying for everything. The worst part is he asked me if he could move in with me because he can't afford his apartment anymore. His parents are not wanting to pay for it. I love him, but I don't know if I should say yes. By the way, I'm still stealing money from his wallet. Should I stop or should I keep going? Or should I break up with him?
My husband's niece came onto him in our own home. Story time. So my husband has a niece called Amy, and she has had issues being attracted to family members before. Not long after me and Steve started to date, Amy came out and said that she had been having relationships with her cousin. And she admitted that she was the instigator in this relationship. She was also very unapologetic. But recently, Amy's been struggling to hold down a job, probably because she's a fucking weirdo. She texted Steve and asked if there was any odd jobs she could do around our house to earn some extra money, and she has been cleaning our house twice a week ever since. We had both felt really uncomfortable around Amy for some time, but we decided it was best to try and help her out. So everything was going absolutely fine until last Saturday. She shows up at our house in this tiny little bikini top and booty shorts, and that is not close to anything that she normally wears, so it was very out of character. But I thought maybe she's going to the lake or something with her friends afterwards, so I brushed it off. So I was in my office just getting on with some work when I heard my husband say, "What do you think you're doing?" Then I heard Amy say, "But I'm tired." That was when I heard Steve say, "There's a couch over there if you're tired, knock it off." Then a few seconds later, I heard Steve say, "I said get off," and then a big bang. I have never ran into my living room quicker. I saw Steve standing next to his recliner chair and Amy was sprawled on the floor. I asked what happened and Amy was like, "I was just playing." And then Steve screamed at her to get out of the house. And like a stroppy kid, she looked at us both and said, "Fine," and then stormed out the house. So after she left, Steve told me what happened. So he said that he'd been sat in his chair with a foot up on his recliner and Amy had come in and like straddled his feet on the chair. And that is when he asked her what she was doing. Then she started to lean towards him and rub his legs. And then, apparently, she started to, like, wiggle her butt around. The big bang I heard was Steve pushing her onto the floor when he put the foot down of the chair. I was pissed. I really did not want to get into it with Amy because that girl thrives on drama. So I sent her pay for the week and texted her saying to never come back to my house ever again. But then last Tuesday, she turned up at my house, which is her normal day to clean. I screamed at this girl's face saying, "What the hell are you doing?" And then I slammed it shut. She actually sent a text that apologised. Obviously, I was not about to reply. But then I started getting texts from her parents. They were complaining that I was being too harsh. I'm getting texts from her parents, my mother-in-law. I did actually tell her parents the truth, but the mother-in-law will not back off. She keeps saying that she knows that she needs help, but I should be there to support her and give her money. So do you think I'm wrong here?
Am I in the wrong for saying that my wife will have to quit her job if we get booted from another daycare? My wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, Alexis. Both of us work and Alexis has attended daycare since she was 1. In the 2 years since, we've been asked to leave 2 programs because my wife is a micromanager. I admit both of us went into the first program not really understanding daycare. I quickly learned that they can't provide personalized care, and after learning from her teachers, I reset my expectations. My wife, however, has a lot of anxiety and worries about our daughter. She hates when she gets even a little upset. She's in therapy and is working on it. During the first program, my wife would constantly watch live feed and call the daycare multiple times a day. We had several talks about it and the school talked to us twice. My wife ended up screaming at one of the teachers and then the director. We were terminated immediately. Second daycare was a little better because my wife began therapy, but my wife was still so nervous and had a complaint every single day. These were not important things. Small things like she saw another child took a toy away from Alexis and she would cry. The teacher would give the toy back to Alexis, but my wife didn't understand why the other child wasn't being punished for it. This daycare didn't kick us out, but did eventually suggest that this may not be the best program for us. My wife and I decided to pull Alexis out. My wife because of her anxiety, myself because I knew my wife had burned bridges and was becoming one of those moms. We chose a smaller home daycare this time as we couldn't afford another center. The woman who owns it is very nice but also firm. She stands by her boundaries and won't let my wife break any rules, whereas the centers were definitely more accommodating. My wife would take any inch she got. This time, she doesn't get that opportunity. I thought all was well as the owner only speaks to my wife for the most part. Then, I get put in a group text saying that my wife was bombarding the owner with texts every single day, despite the owner saying that she'll text her at lunch when things are settled. She said at this point, she'll only respond at specific times of the day and not looking at the rest. The owner then sent several pages of contract with passages highlighted, reminding us of certain policies that my wife had violated. I was pissed. When Alexis went to bed that night, my wife and I talked. I said that this was our last option for daycare. The other centers are too expensive, and this was the only home daycare in the area that we like. A nanny is not in our budget. My wife made a million excuses, including that it's not her fault that she's anxious. I said if we were asked to leave this program too, my wife would be the one quitting her job to watch Alexis, not me. This upset my wife. I pointed out that I've spoken to her kindly about this plenty of times. I encouraged her to keep up her therapy, but she can't keep getting us kicked out of programs. My wife is now not speaking to me. I, 26 male, slept in the same bed as my mom, 49 female, while she was staying in town. My girlfriend, 24 female, finds it odd. My girlfriend and I have been dating for about 4 months now. My mom was coming into town and planned to stay with a friend of hers, but the train got delayed so late that the friend couldn't pick her up. I went to pick her up and she asked if she could stay the night at my apartment. I said yes, of course. This all happened when I was hanging out with my girlfriend. The conversation went like this. My girlfriend said, "Are you sleeping in the same bed as her?" "Yes." "That's weird." "What are you gonna do? Have sex with your mom? Don't you think that's weird?" "No." "I don't know where this is coming from. It's just sleeping in the same bed. My mom and I have never had that type of relationship and it's gross that you would suggest that." My girlfriend said, "I don't know. It seems weird to me. My family has always been close. We are tighter knit than a lot of families and sometimes it can make people jealous of our kinship. We travel together all the time and get hotels with 2 queen beds where I would stay in the same bed as my sister, 22 female. I don't see sleeping in the same bed as a family member being weird. I would rather sleep in my bed than sleep on the couch or kick my mom onto the couch." Fast forward to today. She's still sending jabs through messages asking if my mom and I played footsies last night in bed and asking if I was going to change the sheets or if I preferred my mom's smell on them. I told her that the comments were making me uncomfortable and I'd prefer if they stop. She then goes on to tell me that she's just not getting the clarity on how this relationship is any different from her ex's relationship with his mother, saying that her ex was very close with the mom and the mom did not like her at the end of the relationship, calling her explicit names and judging her from something that my girlfriend told her ex and her ex told the ex's mom. Something she won't tell me because it's the reason that it ended the past relationship. She also said the main reason that she's upset about this topic is the dynamic of the enmeshment was a horrible experience for her. I'm not sure of my girlfriend's relationship with her parents. We met on a dating app and we're learning as we go. It seems to me that their family is not as close as mine. Do you think it's the reason that she thinks it's weird? Is she intimidated or jealous of my mom? It seems like she wants me to distance myself from my mother to not be like her ex. All this to say, should I be worried about this from her? Is this a red flag? Storytime about how I messed up by sleeping with my HR manager. Of some note to the story, I was hired by the GM as the HR manager was on stress leave. Fast forward a few months and I hit the end of my probation, which meant that I get a small raise. To celebrate having a bit more spare cash, some friends from school and I decided to go out for drinks. We ended up meeting some friendly women and getting to know them over a few drinks. One thing led to another and I ended up going home with one. She was a lovely woman and around 3 or 4 years older than me. We did the deed and said our goodbyes. Come Monday, I head into work, still feeling good about the weekend. About an hour in, my boss comes to tell me that an HR manager is back and wants to do meet and greets with everyone that was hired in her absence. I'm penned in just for after lunch. I head into HR a tad early, and lo and behold, my boss and another employee are chatting with a woman from the other night. We make eye contact and she looks shocked and asks me what I'm doing there. I explain that I work here and I'm here for my meet and greet, and ask what she's doing there. She says she's the HR manager and my jaw drops a bit. My boss makes a joke about us staring at each other and leaves. We end up having a nice chat and getting to know each other a bit better. Neither of us bring up the past activities. Fast forward about 2 weeks and I'm suddenly called in the office by HR. I'm promptly informed by her that there is a strict no romantic relationships amongst employees policy in place, and they had been informed that I had broken this rule. 5 minutes later, I'm being escorted from the building. It was a hard few months after that trying to balance work and going to school. I spent almost all of my savings on rent and ended up leaving town to move in with some family until I was back on my feet. It was not a fun time in my life.